We are in Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. All right. How about good things you'd like to share with your church family? Good stuff? Well, we've had a great Lent so far. If you missed last Sunday's Palm Sunday service and the concert, you missed blessings. That was awesome. And we have Good Friday service tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. The reason I am repeating that is this will be my third one with you guys, believe it or not. And the last two, we've had people show up at 7 o'clock. It's at 6 o'clock. Okay. And Sunday, it's going to be at 10 o'clock again. All right. Any other blessings you'd like to share? All right. How about prayer concerns? Yes, ma'am. Bruce Devin's surgery has been moved to Monday, and this is the second time it has been moved. Others? Others you'd like to lift up? Okay. I know there are others on our hearts and minds. God knows what they are and who they are and what the circumstances are. So let's pray together. Gracious God, for this time of year, we are humbled as we contemplate the depth of your love for us and the power you exhibit over death and the grave. You know the things that are on our hearts, so we give them to you. And now we ask that your word would speak to us. In Christ's name, amen. Last week we ended with Jesus saying, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest fields." We begin with Jesus sending out the 12, 2 by 2. When Jesus sends out people, he'll do that again. He'll send out 70, and he sends them out 2 by 2. This is a Jewish, I don't know if you would call it a custom, but if in a court of law, you had to have 2 witnesses. If you had one witness, even if it was a first-hand eyewitness, it did not count. You had to have 2. And so, when he sends out his witnesses, he sends them out 2 by 2. He called the 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew. James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew. Thomas and Matthew the tax collector. James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, preach this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not take along any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take no bag for the journey, or extra tunic, or sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. All right, so Jesus sends out the 12, 2 by 2. And you'll note that he gives them authority to do these miraculous things. Now, the first thing I want you to note is they did not have that. They did not have that authority. They did not have that ability. This is a gift from Christ to them to do this under these particular circumstances. Second thing I want you to notice is note the names of the apostles. Do you know them? A few of them. Some of them are very familiar to us, but most of them are not familiar to us. Most of them we know very little about. In reading the names of the apostles, I've always found great comfort. Here's why. Some of them are very prominent. Some of them are of questionable origins. Some of them are traitors. But they're all considered apostles. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what you find. That's what you find in ministers. That's what you find in parishioners. All of us, but all of us are part of God's family. Simon the Zealot, for instance. Zealots in that era kept a short sword in their cloak at all time. You know why? Whatever chance they got, anytime they had the opportunity, they used it to kill a Roman. Yes. Now, I suspect Jesus put an end to that. But that's who he was when Jesus called him. And then you have Matthew the tax collector, who was considered a traitor among the people. So you have a zealot, overzealous for the country, and you have a traitor to the country in the same band that Jesus called to be apostles. That's the reason I have always preached, and for years, this is God's church. This is not my church. It's not your church. This is God's church. And we welcome who God welcomes. And if you find somebody that God does not welcome, we won't welcome them. All right? But if God welcomes them, we'll welcome them. That's the reason Republicans are welcome here. And Democrats are welcome here. And dog fans are welcome here. And cat fans are welcome here. Liberals are welcome here. And conservatives are welcome here. Those that God welcomes, we welcome. If you find somebody that God does not welcome, you let me know. And we will ban them from the church. If not, they're welcome. Now, is there anything ambiguous about that? That's the reason I look at this list of apostles, and it gives me great comfort. Because it is a wide array of people. Okay, all right. He gives them this instruction. Now, this is one of the advantages and disadvantages of having taught this at least 20 times through the years is that I anticipate questions too much. But I always get a question about, do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Especially in light of what I just said. You go, wait a minute. Jesus told them not to go into any town of the Gentiles or among the Samaritans. Rather go to the lost sheep of Israel. All right. There's lots of different explanations. Let me give you the Mars explanation. This is how I see this. God's message came to humanity through Israel. They were supposed to be a light to the world. That's what God wanted them to be. They were chosen to be a light to the world. They reinterpret that as we are chosen to be better. So Jesus begins with the lost sheep of Israel, giving them the message so that they then could fulfill what they were designed to be. Take the new covenant to the world. You didn't take the old covenant to the world. Now I want you to take the new covenant to the world. And you always have to have a place to start. Now remember who these people are. They are probably all of Jewish origin. They most certainly were people that were either of Jewish origin or were proselytes into Judaism. They would be familiar with the background, and the people that they were going to would be familiar with the background. If they were going to Gentiles or Samaritans, not so much. It's kind of like this. I joke with people who visit with us who are from the South. When they come in, like you can hear it immediately in their voice. I say, well, at least you'll be able to understand me today. There's some similarities from being from the South. We understand certain things about one another. Same thing about other regions. I had in one of my churches, I had 4 or 5 people from northern Minnesota. And when they got together and started talking, they talked their own language. I was just like, whoa, just like we do among Southern people as well. So he's sending them to people that would be able to understand them, that would have similar backgrounds, and also giving them an opportunity to be what they were intended to be. As you go, he says, preach this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. The kingdom of heaven is near. Jesus would proclaim himself unmistakably only the last week of his life. He told people on occasion who he was, revealed to the disciples who he was. But it was only the last week of his life when he rode triumphantly into Jerusalem, declaring he was indeed Messiah. So the kingdom of heaven is near. It's coming. It's close. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. That's where we get our song. Freely, freely you have received, freely, freely. Okay. Do not take anything, don't take any gold or silver or copper in your belts. I think everybody knows that's money. No paper money back then. It's all different coinage in different metals. Take no bag for the journey, no extra tunic or sandals or staff. The worker is worthy of his keep. In other words, expect those that you go among to take care of your own personal needs. Now, this is also an act of faith. Now, I don't know about you, but when I go out on a journey, I want to have double what I need. Don't you? Think of what it would be like to go out with nothing. No, me either. That's just a little bit more faith than what I got. But that's what Jesus said. That's exactly what he's saying to them. He said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Have faith that you will be taken care of. Freely you have received, freely give. All right. Questions? Yes, ma'am. Yep, yep, yep. And he's still got a devil. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. God's timing is perfect, and I hate it. Am I right? Okay. All right. Let's look at that next section. Whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person there and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. I tell you the truth, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Okay. Go to town and find somebody to stay with. That must have been an interesting process. Maybe, in that era, they would be going to towns they had been a part of. Maybe they had relatives. Maybe they had friends. Maybe I don't know. But that would have been an interesting thing. I've never had that happen to me before. I've never had somebody show up at my house and say, "Hey, can I stay with you for a few days?" I'm sure some of you have. Some of you have. But I've never had somebody that I didn't know just show up and say, can I stay with you for a few days? I had somebody in my last church whose father used to go to town. And if there were people on the streets, he would just bring them home. And his wife always planned on there being extra people at the table. That's just what he did. He says, okay, this is another one of those questions. Verse 12, as you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. The Jewish people are very definitive about this. They believe that words carried power. And that when you speak words, they have power in and of themselves. And he says, when you go into a house, bless the home. But if you're there and you find out that it is not worthy of your blessing, take your blessing back. And then, if people do not receive the word individually, or if a town rejects you, shake the dust off of your feet as a protest against them. Now, this, again, is another Jewish custom. The Pharisees, when they would walk through a Gentile area, when they got out of the Gentile area, they would ceremonially knock the dust off their sandals. That was just a custom. That's what they did. They didn't want to carry Gentile dust around with them. That's how quote unquote separate they were. Jesus said, now if they don't receive you, this is not as much, I don't see this so much as a condemnation, as okay, this is on you. This is on you. I mean, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn as a young minister was that when people did not receive the message, that's not on me. It's not on me. But that's hard. It's hard when you put, 10, 20 hours into a message and you do everything you can to deliver it as best you can, and they sit there and go, and do absolutely nothing. It can be discouraging. But I had to learn that my responsibility is the message. That's my responsibility. Their responsibility is response. And that's not on me. And that's what I see Jesus saying to them here. Last thing that I want to say about this passage is that passage where it says, verse 16, where it says, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. There's a popular phrase among folks who teach leadership, and that is teaching or learning how to read the room. Read what's going on in the crowd, what's happening among the peoples. When I read this about be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves, Jesus is saying, understand where you're at, understand who you are. Understand, you're going to hear him say in just a moment, understand that they hate me. They being the religious elite. They being the leaders of the Jewish people. They hate me, and if they hate me, how are they going to feel about you? So be careful. Be careful. Watch yourself. Also, at the same time, be gentle as doves. Remember who you are. Remember your calling. Remember who it is you follow. Be careful. Be cautious. Read the circumstances and the situation. And also remember who you are. Sometimes one of the things I talk to our staff about often is don't allow other people's behavior or responses change yours. Don't let what they do dictate who you are. Always be who you are. All right, questions. That one about shrewd as snakes and gentle as doves used to give me fits. But I've come to believe that this is what it means. Yes, ma'am. Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Sometimes you need to be free not to share. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely understandable, Rick. And what I would say is at this point, Jesus has quite a reputation. Has quite a reputation, and they arrive as disciples of Jesus. And that would be a part of of their preaching and teaching. They're identified as disciples of Jesus. Yeah. 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 Okay, let us move on then. Be on your guard, verse 17. Be on your guard against men. They will hand you over to the local councils and flog you in their synagogues. On my account, you will be brought before governors and kings as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time you will be given what to say, for it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. All men will hate you because of me, but he who stands firm to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. I tell you the truth, you will not finish going through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A student is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the student to be like his teacher and the servant to be like his master. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? Okay. Now, this is another thing that I appreciate about the teachings of Jesus. He doesn't sugarcoat stuff. It's not all roses and rainbows and puppy dogs. He says, listen, if you follow me, they're going to hate you. And my teachings are going to cause division. And shortly after the time of Christ, this is exactly what happened. Families were divided. I think, yeah, Robin, a couple weeks ago or last week in the near past, was telling about a Muslim man who converted to Christianity, and it cost him his family. That's the same thing that happened then among the Jews. He says this is going to happen, But, and this is one of those verses that if you are underlining in your Bible, ought to be underlined. This is verse 19 and 20, verses 19 and 20. But when they arrest you, not if, but when they arrest you, do not worry about what to say or how to say it. At that time you will be given what to say. For it will not be you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. I cannot tell you how many times I have experienced that. Especially in counseling sessions, in tough circumstances, situations that I haven't been in before. I've had things come out of my mouth and I said, "Oh, that was good." But it wasn't me. It was something that God gave me to give. And it also, I've been doing this for 44 years. And most of what I have learned, I have lost. You just an attrition of memory. But I cannot tell you how many times God has brought something back to my memory that I hadn't thought about in years. So this passage really, really, really rings true to me, that when you need it, the Spirit of God will bring it back to you or give it to you anew. I was putting the final touches on the Easter sermon yesterday. And God led me to a book by Max Lucado. You know about Max? No Max, the name Max? Okay. And I read a couple of chapters in that, and there was a couple of tidbits that brought it together that I needed. That I've had that book on my shelf for 10 years and have never opened it. Which book? 6 hours one Friday. 6 hours one Friday. 6 hours one Friday. And I was, that's a really a Good Friday book, but I got Easter stuff out of it. So, all right. Jesus says, you are going to be like me. And if they call me Beelzebub, and if you'll remember back chapter 9, verse 34, last chapter, they said that Jesus was driving out demons by Beelzebub. And if they call me Beelzebub, what are they going to call you? All right, questions? Yes, sir. $23. Yep. I've got a question mark by that too, Martin. Rick? Remember, Son of Man is Jesus' favorite title for himself. When I see him saying the Son of Man come, I read that as that's when he reveals himself, reveals who he is. And that was at the triumphant entry. All right. All righty, let's get another section. And this is another one of those sections, one of my favorites. Verse 26, he says, "Do not be afraid of them. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from the will of your Father. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. I love that passage. And here's why. The favorite entree on Sunday afternoons is roasted preacher. In some places, among some peoples. And you can't stop that. Some people agree with what you've got to say, some people don't. Some people agree with how you lead, some people don't. I love what a pastor friend of mine says when he leaves a church. He said, you know, I can say beyond any shadow of a doubt that I have made everybody happy. I made some happy when I came, some happy while I was here, and some happy now that I'm leaving. But you can't worry about that. Because at the end of the day, when we stand before God, everyone will know the truth. Everyone will know the absolute truth and know the intentions. Have you ever really desired someone to know what you were trying to tell them and they just couldn't get it? And it just got worse and worse and worse? Okay. When I read this passage of Scripture, that's what I hear. There will be a day, don't worry, there will be a day when people understand. There will be a day. They may not understand you now, but there will be a day when they will understand the truth. I want to go there. Yeah, I'm going to go there. There are some times that you can be absolutely right in what you say, but absolutely wrong in how you say it. And there can also be times when you are absolutely wrong in what you say, but your heart is in the right place. And there's no way for human beings to know that. But God knows that, and one day everyone else will know that. So don't worry about that. You worry about your relationship with God. You worry about your standing with God, and God knows your heart. God knows the intention of your heart. What it may have come out wrong, it may have seemed wrong, it may have been taken wrong, but God knows your intention. And for me, that is very comforting. Now please don't neglect talking to me on Sunday morning, all right, for what I'm about to say. But sometimes on Sunday morning, I have got a lot on my mind. My mind is going in 100 different directions. I've got a whole bunch of different problems that are going on, circumstances that are happening, and I can be brief. And if I say something brief, or it's not intended to be curt, it's the situation and circumstances at the moment. Does that make sense? Okay. Just understand that what I take great comfort is that God knows how things are intended. God knows the heart. Okay. Something you'd like to add? Something? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, I like that, but it's that 10% that gets me. I hate to leave people behind. It's just like Bill is. I had my last church. I had the guy that owned a large Ford dealership in town, and so I talked to him about hiring and firing. I said, "How do you do this? You know, hundreds of times a year. How do you do this?" And he said, "That's easy. Slow to hire, quick to fire." But my number one gift is the gift of pastor. And when somebody's having a problem, I want to pastor them. It's not fire them. Okay. All right, let's move on. By the way, there's a great children's sermon in verse 30. Even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. You'll see it one day probably. Whoever acknowledges me, verse 32, whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. But whoever disowns me before men, I will disown him before my Father in heaven. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace on the earth. I do not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. He who receives you receives me. He who receives me receives the one who sent me. Anyone who receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And anyone who receives a righteous man because he is a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. And anyone who gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because he is my disciple, I tell you the truth, you will certainly not lose his reward. Jesus says his message is controversial. His message is not uniting, it is divisive. Not intentionally, but it is contrary to the world. The message of Jesus Christ runs counter culture. I mean, whoever heard of loving your enemies, doing good to despite those who despitefully use you, giving to those you don't expect to receive anything back from, being good to those who are not good to you, loving even your enemies. This is counter society. This is counter culture. This is counter everything the world teaches. And Jesus says, because of that, you will be well received at times. And then those verses there where he says, anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And through the years, I've had people have a lot of trouble with those two. Maybe not so much loving mother and father more than me, but loving son and daughter. But that is what Jesus is saying. He said, "But if you're going to follow me, my way of living, my way of life must be first." Okay. Then lastly, he says, be assured that God sees everything that is done, and you will indeed be rewarded for what you do. And just in the work itself, knowing that you're doing what pleases God is reward in and of itself. All right, questions, observations, complaints. All right, go ahead, Rick. Uh-huh, you do. Remember, Jesus speaks often in hyperbole. He speaks often in hyperbole. He's a preacher, remember? And he uses examples to get people's attention. All right, go ahead, Rick. Yes, right. It is. He is making a point. Just like if I said, I wouldn't do that in a million years. Well, a short time, yeah. Don? Right. That is, he is telling them what to expect. As you go out into the world, here's what you can expect. You can expect to be rejected. You can expect some people not to receive you. Yeah. Yes, Priscilla? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Brought things to your mind you didn't even think of. Yeah. It is absolutely amazing. All right. Yes, Linda. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Behold, I send you forth as sheep among wolves. uh, is there a plan B? Can we try a different approach? Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. We have just a few seniors here, right? Oh, just a couple. This is why I like retirement. How many days in a week? 6 Saturdays, 1 Sunday. When is a retiree's bedtime? 2 hours after they fall asleep on the couch. How many retirees does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but it might take all day. What is the biggest gripe of retirees? There's not enough time to get everything done. Why don't retirees mind being called seniors? The term comes with a 10% discount. Among retirees, what is considered formal attire? Tied shoes. Why? Nah. What is the common term for anyone who enjoys work and refuses to retire? Nuts. Why are retirees so slow to clean out the basement, attic, or garage? They know as soon as they do, one of their adult children will either want to move back in or store stuff there. What do retirees call a long lunch? Normal. What's the best way to describe retirement? A never-ending coffee break. What is the biggest advantage to going back to school as a retiree? If you cut classes, nobody calls your parents. Now, this next one is an old one. In fact, the title of it is Church Ladies with Typewriters. Now, when was the last time you used a typewriter? Or we used a typewriter in the church. So that's how old this one is. You have to watch how you put words together, you know? that's important to do that. For instance, the fasting and prayer conference includes meals. Scouts are saving aluminum cans, bottles, and other items to recycle. Proceeds will be used to cripple children. Sermon this morning, Jesus walks on water. Sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of all the things not worth keeping around the house. Bring your husbands. At the service tonight, the sermon topic will be, what is hell? Come early and listen to our choir practice. Oh, that's just bad. Eight new choir robes are currently needed due to the addition of several new members and to the deterioration of older ones. Last but not least, you got to watch what you put together. Remember, low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. Oh, that's just, like I said, it's just bad. You got to watch those things. They mean something. All right, as you go into your world, remember tomorrow night. It's a somber service. It's a tough service. But it makes Sunday, makes the Easter celebration so much more of a celebration. So be here tomorrow night. God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow night. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.